Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet Violet VGC video. I'm your host Jose Rocks, and today is the last day of 2024. So now that we're going into Regulation G, this is my first time doing this. I just started doing this trend where at the start of the month I release 5 rental codes for you guys, just with some unique rental teams for you guys to try out on the ladder and to see how you can get on the ladder and hit number 1 with some of these teams, right? We were able to hit number 1 last month, so we'll see if we can hit number 1 again this month with any of these teams that end up coming up, right? So we're gonna start off with a couple of interesting teams that I find that I don't see anybody else using in the format that I think have a lot of potential. But let me know what you guys think about these types of videos. It is the last day of the year, and 2024 has been a really great year for me and the channel. And 2025 we're gonna really receive a lot of blessings on the channel. I believe that's gonna be our biggest year, and that's when I feel like my channel is gonna really start to take off and just going to speak it into existence. You know, in my personal life, I've been, having a lot of different things, going on that have been tough for me. And now that I'm going to church and things like that, I do know that, when you're going through something, the hardship, that means you're really close to a blessing, right? And I think that, blessings are coming, and I'm going to keep pushing out this content. So if you guys, want to support the channel, like this type of content, go ahead and subscribe for me if you're not already subscribed, and we're going to keep, going. The goal is 1 million subscribers. No, that's a lofty goal, but I do know that we can eventually get there if I just, stay consistent and continue to put out the best content I can, and continue to, update and evolve my content as we grow. But starting off with our first team, we're going to have Kyurem-Black here. So Kyurem-Black is a restricted that I did not see not one person use in the previous Regulation G. But I wanted to give it a try because I really do like Kyurem. I usually like Kyurem White better. And I figured that, since everyone has been using loaded dice in Regulation H, why not take some of those strategies and bring them over to Regulation G? So a trend that you might have seen in Regulation H is Sneasler with coaching, and next to a loaded dice user with Scale Shot with Dragonite, or even a Icicle Spear loaded dice with Best Caliber right next to Sneasler and coaching, and that was really strong. So with Zapdos coming back, Zapdos, even though it's not as fast as Sneasler, it has Defiant, right? So it punishes your opponent for bringing their Incineroar, and it threatens with close combat, right? So it's really strong next to Kyurem and makes them not want to bring their Incineroar out. And also it punishes your opponent for playing passive in front of this duo from not really knowing what it's gonna do and protecting, and you can set up a Tailwind and get a free coaching off, right? And Kyurem on Tailwind is very, strong and powerful, especially when your opponent sets up an opposing Tailwind. Zapdos are always, unless it's like a Choice Band Urshifu or something like that, you'll always get your own Tailwind up. And once you get and usually they really don't like to lead Water Urshifu into this team, so you're usually safe from that. But you'll be able to get your own Tailwind up, and then your Kyurem can just set up his Scale Shot and then start to outspeed everything on your opponent's team, right? And loaded dice Icicle Spear one-shots Calyrex Shadow, which is really cool. One-shots Miraidon, one-shots Koraidon, one-shots just a lot of restrictions. Of course, you can't one-shot the Calyrex-Ice, but you also aren't taking too much damage from the Calyrex-Ice. Once you start to get a lot of coaching boost up, you're able to just sit in front of it, right, and do big damage to it with Fusion Bolt and Scale Shot. You could go for Icicle Spear just if it's already chipped, but I will wait to go for Scale Shot just so you're not dropping your defenses, right, until you are bulked up enough to the point where you can use Scale Shot to finish off Calyrex-Ice. But other than that, this team, if you do go against Calyrex-Ice, you really should be playing towards the Dondozo mode. This Dondozo was made to beat that those hard Trick Room teams where they're Calyrex-Ice and Amoonguss, or even Smeargle. This Dondozo was a similar set to what we hit rank number 1 with in the previous season. The safety goggles and Steel Terror are just so good because it allows you to wall a lot of different things in the format, and allows you to get around Spores and Dondozo being slowed down by Sleep. The only thing that you really have to worry about is Haze, but there's not a lot of Haze users yet in this format, since there's not a lot of setup starting off early in the format. I don't know if there's gonna be a huge need to counter Dondozo in Regulation G, since you have powerful restricteds. So you may see less Haze users, and a lot of people don't realize that Dondozo is good into a lot of restricteds, especially when they're caught out of position and not able to deal big damage to it. Miraidon is really good into it, But if it's caught out of position or if it's weakened, then Dondozo can have a good time with it, right? So this Kyurem set is gonna be is really unique and fun. And the Electric Terror just allows you to get stab on Fusion Bolt, which is a good move to go against like Urshifu and just one-shot it. So it's really cool, and you're able to, you know, remove a lot of different mons from the format with once you get those coaching boosts and Electric Terror, Fusion Bolt. And Kyurem has, you know, one of the highest attack stats in the game. So just imagine that being boosted further with coaching and being even bulkier on the defensive side. It's a very hard mon to deal with, and I hope that I'm able to showcase, you know, a lot of, you know, the strengths of this mon so that more people are able to give it a chance. Next we have Tessagiri. So Tessagiri, it's really the items that it wants to run are like Focus Sash, Safety Goggles, and Choice Scarf. And if you look on our team, we already have those taken up. So I decided to go with something a little bit more bulky, something that can help me into like a Kyogre matchup in case I run into one and I don't want to use Kyurem. I can also go with the Tessagiri route and go for like Grass Terror, Terra Blast. And with the Assault Vest, you'll be able to eat, you know, the Wave Crash, the Water Spout, and then just do big damage to Kyogre, to where if it's locked into Water Spout, then it's not going to be able to do a lot of damage the following turn. So that's just the idea behind the Tessagiri. The Chi-Yu, also a really unique Chi-Yu set. Ground Terror, Terra Blast is here to simply, you know, go against the Miraidons, which can give this team a little bit of trouble, and just pressure it down with the one-hit KO, right? And usually Miraidon, if it's going to try to Volt Switch out and you lead Chi-Yu Zapdos and they lead like Whimsicott plus Miraidon, they're going to set up Tailwind, try to Volt Switch out. And Zapdos, even if it does hit Zapdos, Zapdos will survive with the Sash. And Chi-Yu will be, if it targets the Chi-Yu, Chi-Yu becomes immune to it with the Terra Blast. And then you can set up your own Tailwind with Zapdos, and then Chi-Yu just outspeeds your opponent's team. So it's really cool. It's really fun to lead with Zapdos. You can also lead it next to Flutter Mane and go for like those icy winds to, you know, drop speeds, and then like follow up with Moonblast and Shadow Ball. Since Chi-Yu is running Heat Wave and Snarl, and it can be kind of weak to like Wide Guard, I decided not to run Dazzling Gleam on Flutter Mane and decided to run Moonblast instead with Fairy Terror on that Flutter Mane, just so next to Chi-Yu you're able to deal really big damage with Moonblast, right? So this team has a lot of different modes. You can go with the Dondozo mode, you can go with the Chi-Yu Flutter Mane mode, you can go with the Kyurem Zapdos mode, you can go with the Zapdos Chi-Yu mode, or you can even go with like Donzo +1, Donzo plus Kyurem, and like switch one out. Or you can go with like Donzo Flutter Mane, switch Donzo out into Chi-Yu to deal big damage to Flutter Mane, or switch Flutter Mane out into Tessagiri. Or you can even go with the Zapdos Donzo and coach up your own Dondozo and just bait switching in your Tessagiri and allow Dondozo to do a lot of damage still with coaching. And this is really good into like the Trick Room teams where you get those coaching boosts on Dondozo. Then when you're ready, especially the Calyrex, once you're ready to switch in your Tessagiri, then Dondozo is just so hard for Calyrex to remove once it gets like all those defense boosts, and you're able to sustain and also have a really good Terror, just in case you run into like anything that can like hit you for like neutral damage, like a Ursaluna or something like that, and then you just one-shot it back with a Wave Crash before it can switch up to an Earth Power. So this team is gonna be one of the most unique teams that I have that are featured in Regulation G, and I hope you guys give it a try. But let's move on to the next team. All right, our next team is gonna be Calyrex Shadow, and I did forget. Let me go back one more time. Sorry. There is a rental code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. Forgot to mention that. All right, next we have our Calyrex-Ice team, and again, there's a rental code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. And this one's gonna be a pretty unique team. I haven't seen a Calyrex-Ice team yet running this pair where you have the Farigiraf and the Ursaluna mode on the team as well. And this functions really good because you can lead Farigiraf and Incineroar, and it's very hard to stop these two from getting up Trick Room. And also, once they do get up Trick Room, the Farigiraf is able to deal damage to where your opponent really wants to get it off the field because it's doing a lot of damage across the board. And the things that it can't really hit, like Dark types or Ghost types, like Calyrex for that much damage, Incineroar is able to hit those types with like Knockoff and Flare Blitz. So they are very irritating for your opponent to deal with. And a lot of times your opponent really wants to get them off the field. And when they do, that opens the door to bring in Calyrex and Ursaluna. So Ursaluna is going to be the Assault Vest set. I wanted to just give this a try on the Calyrex team because it felt really strong. And it's very hard for like opposing special attackers to deal with. Of course, Miraidon can always Volt Switch into you if you tear into water. But if you just don't tear into water, then, especially if you're in the Trick Room, then they have to make a decision whether they want to click Draco Meteor. And if they do click Draco Meteor, it's never going to one-shot you with the Assault Vest, and now they're doing a lot less damage to the rest of your team, right? So Ursaluna does pressure that a lot. Calyrex also with the Grass Terror allows you to be immune to spores from Amoonguss and Smeargle, and also allows you to resist the electric type attacks from Miraidon. And Miraidon's not one-shotting you with Draco Meteor with the defense that you have on it. And you can run Grass Terror on Calyrex on this type of team, because usually you see like Fire Terror or Dragon Terror, just so you'd be able to resist fire type attacks. But with Pelipper on the team and setting up the rain, that makes fire type attacks neutral against Calyrex. So now you're able to flex that Grass Terror so that you can be immune to Amoonguss, which will be known for slowing down Calyrex on the Trick Room. Like, that's one of the good Trick Room answers that those teams will have if they're like pretty hyper offensive. They'll just throw an Amoonguss on their team and say, hey, this is my Trick Room answer. If you set up Trick Room, Amoonguss just spores you, right? That doesn't work with this team when you have City Goggles on Incineroar and Calyrex with Grass Terror, and also Farigiraf threatening it with Psychic type damage. So this team has really good synergy, and also is not stuck to playing like hard Trick Room. You have the Urshifu and Pelipper mode here, where you can go with the rain and just allow Urshifu to outspeed everything if they don't bring their Tailwind, and then just one-shot things with Choice Scarf, Surging Strikes, Water Terror, and the Rain, which does a lot of damage. And we also added Helping Hand on the Pelipper just to get the most damage out of those Surging Strikes that is very hard for anything to switch into. And even if you resist it, you're taking about 50%, unless you're something like a Tatsugiri that 4 times resisted. But that's really rare in this format that you have anything that 4 times resisted. So you're usually taking over 50%. So everything's pretty much a 2-hit KO from the Urshifu. And this Urshifu still has some bulk on it, so it's not going to be able to be one-shot. And then Urshifu, you can also run it next to this Calyrex and go for like coaching into your Calyrex and not have to set up Trick Room. And you can set up Trick Room at a later time if your opponent just has like a lot of physical attackers and they're not threatening super effective damage in the Calyrex. Then that's a really good lead into their teams. And you can also always switch out Urshifu into the Incineroar to get another Intimidate off, and then fake out Trick Room when you're ready to set up Trick Room. So this team has a lot of cool synergy. For those Trick Room players who really like to play Trick Room, I thought I'd start off the season with a Trick Room team so you guys can take advantage of it. And I know that there's some players that really love Trick Room, so I think that this might be a team for you. So there's a runner code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below, and we're going to move on to the next team. Next, we have Kyogre. So Kyogre has been one of my favorite restricted since in Sword and Shield. It was the first Mon that I ever hit rank number 1 with in, I believe, Series 12 or Series 14 or something like that. But it was really fun to do it with. Yveltal was also the other restricted I had with it. It was a choice-based Kyogre with Choice Scarf Yveltal, which works in that format because you're able to go for Tailwind with Yveltal. Choice Scarf Tailwind when they're not expecting like Kyogre to have that speed boost, and you're able to outspeed everything and go for those powerful water spouts. And with the rain up, like Kyogre just does so much damage, right? And then after you set up your Tailwind, what you could do with Yveltal, what you can't do in this game, was Dynamax it, right? And if you Dynamax Yveltal, now the choice items don't work. They become ineffective when you Dynamax, as far as the user that has the choice item, right? So once you Dynamax Yveltal, it uses the lock of the Choice Scarf, and now you're able to go for like Max Darkness, right? And even if your Kyogre got chipped turn 1 if it didn't pick up 2 KOs, now you're going for those Max Darknesses, which lower the special defense on the other side of the field. And then Kyogre was able to still deal like a lot of damage with the Water Spout following that. And then also you're taking a lot of damage from Dark or Max Darkness, which is like base 130 coming off Dark Pulse from Yveltal, which is really, it was a very powerful strategy, and I was able to hit rank number 1 with it. So I wanted to build a team that has some inspiration from that, right? So instead of like the Choice Scarf Yveltal, we have Tornadus with Dark Terror, and we also have Chien-Pao, which also offers like the dark coverage, right? We don't have anything that drops the special defense, right? But we don't really need that when we have Water Terror on Kyogre, which kind of covers for that special defense drop, right? It's kind of similar in that way, where this Kyogre is choice specs and it wants to play on Tailwind. But also the Kyogre on that team had an Indeedee on the team, which allowed that Kyogre to, if you're going against like a really hyper offense team with Tailwind, you can just set up Trick Room with Indeedee, and then Kyogre is able to sweep on the Trick Room. So this Kyogre, it's mid speed, so it's the same as that Kyogre that I had on the other team, where if you set up Trick Room, is able to underspeed a lot of different things on the Trick Room because you're at the mid speed. But on Tailwind, you're able to outspeed everything, including Calyrex Shadow, because you're at, like right at that perfect speed tier that you can function on the Trick Room and Tailwind, right? And if you're playing against opposing Tailwind teams and you do decide to not set up your Trick Room, we are carrying Icy Wind on the Tornadus and Thunder Electro Web on the Raging Bolt. So what you can do is set up your Tailwind with Tornadus, and then this Electro Web and Icy Wind everything down with those two on lead. And then once one of them go down, you're able to bring in Kyogre, which now is going to start to outspeed everything since you got the Electro Web and Icy Wind drops, and then you can just pick up KOs with Water Spout. So everything is pretty much about positioning this Kyogre to sweep with Water Spout. Even against like hard Trick Room teams, you can lead like Fergraph Kyogre, go for like a Helping Hand Specs Water Spout, and I even one-shotted a Calyrex that tear it into grass, right? And with the rain up, Helping Hand, Water Terror, Water Spout, one shot with Choice Specs, one shot Grass Terror, Calyrex-Ice, which my opponent was not expecting to happen, right? So it's a really cool strategy. And also the Rillaboom, also you can go for like Fake Out Water Spout, and it's very hard for your opponent to switch in. Now a lot of people, you know, tend to run like Urshifu on these teams, but I didn't feel like this team actually needed Urshifu, even though it would be a good fit next to the Tornadus and Kyogre. I really wanted Raging Bolt, because Raging Bolt gives me a really good matchup into like opposing threats that kind of threaten Kyogre, like electric types, and it's very hard to deal with the synergy that this team has, right? And I kind of wanted to go with the Raging Bolt and use the Assault Vest just to give me like a really good answer into like Calyrex-Ice, and just be really bulky on the special defense side, and also go with the Fairy Terror, so it's able to like sit on the field and threaten a lot of things, right? And if you go up against Miraidon has to make a choice whether it wants to click Draco Meteor into you, which you're calced to live, so you don't have to Terra in the Fairy. And usually they probably expect you to run Terra Fairy, so they might just click an electric type attack into you as well, which you still, you know, you resist that. You 4 times resist that. So it does have a 50-50 game with the Miraidon, so I wouldn't always bet on that, but it does give you some options into that. The Fergraph helps you against like the Among Us with the Seki Goggles. We have Foul Play just to deal with like Calyrex-Ice and those really powerful physical attackers, and Imprison to help you shut down opposing Trick Room if you feel like Kyogre can't pick up a KO, which it usually can, but if you have something that you think may survive, you can always just Imprison and stop them from getting up Trick Room. And then 2 Water Spouts just KOs everything. And the Safety Goggles is just to give you an immunity into the Among Us of the world. Next is the other unique set is going to be the Rillaboom. The Loaded Dice set is because the Assault Vest is taken up on the Raging Bolt. Like I said, if you want to switch this team around, and also another reason for the Raging Bolt is that it can play on the Trick Room with the Fergraph, so it gives you that Trick Room mode. But if you do want to swap it out for like an Urshifu, then you can give Rillaboom the Assault Vest. But since Rillaboom is not carrying the Assault Vest, I wanted to go with the Loaded Dice Bullet Seed set, because this Bullet Seed with Rillaboom having the attack stat that it has, unless they're like a max defense, max HP Calyrex Shadow, you're able to one-shot it with Bullet Seed right through its Focus Sash, which is really cool in my opinion. And even if it is max HP and max defense, if you have this next to Chien-Pao, then you're able to pick up that KO. But usually it's not that simple to just to go for it, because Calyrex has something protecting it. But when you have like something like Rillaboom and Fergraph on the field, which looks kind of passive to Calyrex, that it is safe, then you can go for that Bullet Seed and remove it and still set up your Trick Room, right? So that's a really cool, you know, duo to lead. And the Trick Room mode with like Rillaboom, Fergraph, and Raging Bolt Kyogre is really strong. So last but not least, we have Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao pairs really well with Kyogre, because if you think of the things that Kyogre can't really hit with water type attacks, are going to be dragon types and grass types. Chien-Pao does really well into them, right? And we're running something like Icicle Crash instead of Ice Spinner, because we don't want to remove Rillaboom's grassy terrain, which is really good with the Grassy Glides and Bullet Seeds, right? So in order to allow them to have good synergy, we're running something like Icicle Crash, which is less accurate, but it does have a trade-off because it has the opportunity to flinch. And with Chien-Pao being base 135 speed, you get a lot of opportunities to flinch things, right? And also it's like 5 base power stronger, so you do have that benefit, right? So it is, you know, a little bit more risky, and there's not a lot of moves on this team that can actually miss outside of like Origin Pulse, Icicle Crash, and the occasional Bleak Wind outside of the rain, because the Electro Web and Icy Wind are fairly accurate, right? Even though they can't miss. But a lot of the times, Kyogre is going to be able to click Water Spout. And even if Kyogre's at half HP, with Water Terror and Choice Space with the rain up, Water Spout's still doing a lot of damage, right? So it's still safe to click over something like Origin Pulse, unless you just like down to like red health or something like that. I would still just click Water Spout. So other than that, this team does play pretty consistent. And there's the Ghost Terror that's on the Chien-Pao, just to help you get around, you know, some fighting type attacks or some fake outs in case you're not leading your Fergraph. But there's a rental code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. Let's get into the next team. All right, next, so I had a decision. I wanted to decide whether I wanted to build a Miraidon team, but then I felt like a lot of people, when they put out their teams for the start of the format, they're gonna have a lot of Miraidon teams for you already. So I wanted to give something to you guys that a lot of people probably won't have teams for if you just wanted to try it. And this is gonna be Koraidon. So this Koraidon is gonna be choice banded. This thing does massive amounts of damage, right? And I tried out choice band Koraidon in the previous format, and I had something like Chien-Pao on the team, and I found out how to make this set even stronger. Well, I used to use Chien-Pao just to boost, the damage of that, but I did run into a lot of situations where Incineroar was kind of a huge problem for those teams. So now we kind of corrected that, right? So we put a lot of special attackers around Koraidon. So it's the only physical attacker on this team. So people really aren't incentivized to really bring Incineroar like that. Even if they do, you have, Flutter Mane with Stellar Terror, Moonblast. You have Chi-Yu that can burst it down with Heat Wave, especially with the sun up from the Whimsicott. And then you have Sandy Shocks here, which is able to just remove Incineroar with Earth Power with Life Orb, right? So it's a really strong team, and Koraidon enabling the sun gives both Flutter Mane and Sandy Shocks a speed boost. And with Chi-Yu also playing on Tailwind from Whimsicott, it's very hard to outspeed this team, right? And if you try to set up Trick Room, of course we have the Frugraph there with Water Terror and Citrus Berry. It's being very bulky and able to sit on the field and sit in front of your opponent's teams and block them off from setting up the Trick Room, right? I initially had a Helping Hand on this team, but I did find out a lot of people were doubling into the Frugraph slot when I was practicing with this team. I was like, let's try Protect on this, right? It also allows you to Imprison Protect, which allows Koraidon, once it comes in and Frugraph Imprison Protect, they can't protect against it, right? So now you're able to click your attacks the way you want. You're forcing out terrors, right? And if your opponent's already going for terror, because Chi-Yu and Flutter Mane force a lot of terrors, and Sandy Shocks, like ground coverage, powerful fire type coverage, powerful fairy type coverage, threatens like a lot of 1 KO. So they're usually forcing terrors, which allows Koraidon to click his moves easier and lock into something like Collision Course once they don't have any ghost terrors or any ghost types, or fire terror Flare Blitz once they don't have anything that resists it, or even Outrage once you see that they don't have any fairy types left or any fairy terrors. And then Outrage is able to just one-shot a lot of things, right? Think about Choice Band Dragonite with Outrage. It just does so much damage. So this mon is very strong, and it enables this entire team, and it's very fun to play with. And a lot of the times your opponent might not even have an answer into Fire Terror Flare Blitz in the sun from Whimsicott, and you just lead that and just sweep your opponent. So this team is very hyper offense. It does take some practice to get to learn about how to position it properly, but it does allow for like a lot of easy positioning with Whimsicott, especially with Whimsicott having Encore, locking down like a lot of different things on your opponent's team. Frugraph having Imprison, locking down like a lot of different protects and like defensive plays, right? So it does pressure your opponent into making a lot of fast and defensive decisions, which you could punish it with the rest of your team, right? And we're running Ghost Terror on a Chi-Yu just so you can lead it something next to Koraidon, and they have to decide which one they want to fake out. You can also just switch in your Frugraph on the Chi-Yu slide, attack Koraidon, or stay in with Koraidon, take the fake out and Ghost Terror with Chi-Yu, and then just go for like Heat Wave, right? So it does force your opponent to really be disincentivized from clicking fake out into this team, because you really can only fake out Sandy Shocks and Koraidon, but with Frugraph you can fake out nothing. And with the Ghost on the team and Covert Cloak, they're also immune to fake out. So it's a very strong team. Like I said, the only thing that I would see that I would change from starting is just going back to the Helping Hand on Frugraph. But like I said, I felt like Imprison Protect was really solid on this team and gave it something like a unique win con that your opponent might not be expecting. So there's a rental code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. One thing I also forgot to note is that Sandy Shocks is Grass Terror, which gives you a Grass Terror Blast, which is really good into like something like Kyogre, which can usually pressure you down with powerful water type attacks, and just any water type attacks in general. It does allow you to hit those water types back with a grass type move, especially like something like Gastrodon, which is immune to your electric type attacks, right? So Gastrodon is not really common against this team, but just in case, Grass Terror just comes in handy and just gives you, grass coverage on this team that you're not carrying anywhere else on the team. So that's just one more thing to note about this team. But let's go ahead and get into the final team. Last but not least, we have Zacian. So again, I was tasked with the decision whether I wanted to use Zacian or Zamazenta. I had teams for both, just like I had a Miraidon and Koraidon team, but I decided to go with Zacian this time. Last time we started off the season with Zamazenta, so this time we're going to start off the season with Zacian. And this Zacian takes some inspiration from the team that I almost hit rank number 1. I think I hit rank number 6 in the world with a Dondozo Zacian team, which featured Regidrago, Zacian, and Tornadus. So this team is very similar, but we changed some pieces around, right? So it's not completely relying on the Dondozo mode. like the previous Zacian team was, and this one relies more so on helping you deal with Incineroar, which was kind of annoying for that team. So Incineroar cannot take a Dragon Terra Draco Dragon Energy with Draco Plate from this Regidrago with Tailwind, right? And then you have, Indeedee that you can switch in or lead with Regidrago to give it redirection support or helping hand support, so that they're not able to click those fake outs into Regidrago. And if they don't have anything that's faster than it, it's just like the Kyogre, like you're just dealing so much damage to Dragon Energy. And then if they tear in the Fairy, now they're weak to your Zacian in the back, right? So it's a really cool strategy, and this team is just really strong, very hyper offense. And like I said, I like to run a prison on my users. So this Indeedee initially had Psychic Seed and Psychic, but I decided that this team has so much offense that I'd rather just, instead of like playing in Trick Room, which you can play in Trick Room, but with having two choice items on Chi-Yu and Urshifu, you're really gonna have to play for protects and swaps, and this team really doesn't have a lot of opportunities to do that, right? So instead of like playing inside of Trick Room, I'd rather just prevent Trick Room completely and not have to go for the guessing game whether they want to set it up or not, and just imprison it. So this Indeedee can stop Trick Room completely, and you can sweep with the rest of your team. So that's kind of the idea behind the Indeedee. The Follow Me is something it does better than Fergraph for this team specifically, because you're able to follow me away from Regidrago, Zacian, and Urshifu, and also boost them with Helping Hand, and also still set up Trick Room, right? So it's really cool in that aspect. If you're going against another hyper offense Tailwind team, you can also set your own Trick Room. And we decided to go with Rocky Helmet just so Indeedee is able to do some type of damage, even if it's like indirectly to like physical attackers like Chien-Pao, things like that can survive on Sash. If they target the Indeedee, they get their Sash broken. Now they're one shot by like a Flamethrower or Dragon Energy from the Regidrago. The Zacian is really unique because it's running Ground Terra Terra Blast, which is able to remove Miraidon. And a lot of Miraidons just sit in front of Zacian because they feel relatively safe. And you can really go for like outspeed them because Zacian is max speed. Go for Tailwind. If they try to go for Tailwind with Whimsicott, then you just one-shot them, right? And you do big damage to them. Even if they usually go for like, okay, you're running Zacian, you're probably gonna have Play Rough. They go for like Electric Terror, and then you still just one-shot them with Ground Terror Terra Blast. So it's really cool. I've done it a lot with this team, and it felt really strong. Choice Band, Urshifu, since the Choice Scarf is on Chi-Yu for this team, and I'll explain why. It just does so much damage, right? Being able to go for Rain Dance and Choice Band Surging Strikes in the rain is just so powerful with that Choice Band, and it's a lot of things that can't really switch into that. And then because we're playing with Tornadus, we didn't necessarily need the Choice Scarf, and so we're playing with the Tailwind on the Urshifu, right? This allows us to open up with the Choice Band, that opens up a separate Terra because we don't need the extra damage from the Terra, and this opens up Grass Terra, which makes us ignore redirection from Amoonguss and hit the target that we want to hit. Also, you become immune to Spore, and it allows you to resist like Raging Bolts, like Thunderclap and things like that can threaten down the Urshifu for a one-hit KO, and you're able to just two-hit KO Raging Bolt with Surging Strikes in the rain. So it's a really cool strategy, and it's very hard for your opponent to switch into. Next, we have Chi-Yu. So this Chi-Yu specifically was designed to outspeed like Kyogre, and Kyogre has a really good matchup into this team. If you look at it, even though Regidrago resisted, Regidrago's not doing a lot of damage back when you're taking on Water Spouts, right? So Chi-Yu now allows us to be able to Terra into Grass, survive the Water Spout, and then we don't one-shot Kyogre back unless they're like no bulk investment. But if they are bulk investment, which is good, which is not, it's good to not one-shot them because they usually are locked into like a move. And once you lock them into, and even if they're Choice Scarf Kyogre, you outspeed them, right? You lock them into Water Spout and they can't go for Water Spout, and you deal enough damage to where you're potentially one-shotting them. And now they're locked in the Water Spout and they're forced to switch or just sit on the field and do nothing. I usually just target the other teammate because they want you to knock out their Kyogre because it's not doing anything, right? So I decided to go with this because it gives us a really good matchup into that. Choice Scarf Snarl is really good into the Calyrex Shadows, and the reason we're not running Flamethrower is because this is a rain team, and with being rain, I didn't want to like be counterproductive, but I did want to still carry a fire type attack on Chi-Yu because fire is just so good on Chi-Yu, right? But we're leaning more so towards the rain, so that's why we're not running something like Heat Wave. And also Wide Guard can be pretty pressuring for this team with Tornadus having Bleak Wind and Regidrago having Dragon Energy. People are going to bring their Wide Guard, right? So having Flamethrower allows you to get around Wide Guard and still be able to hit things for super effective damage with the flamethrower. But that's kind of the idea behind why Chi-Yu is running Choice Scarf plus a flamethrower over Heat Wave, which is not really a unique set, but this which is not really a common set. It's more of a unique set, which makes this Chi-Yu set fit on this team a little bit better. But the Renico up at the top right for this team, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below with the Renico with the breakdown of the EVs for this team. But that's gonna be it for these Renicos, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy all these teams. Give them all a try. The format doesn't start till January 5th, so you do have a few days to use it on the casual ladder with wins, when wins and losses don't matter. So that gives you a lot of time to practice with it. And let me know in the comment below if you guys are finding any success. Once the season starts, you can come back to this video and let me know how you get with one of these teams. But I'm going to be showcasing one of these teams. I'm going to put a poll up, so if you guys want to vote on which team you want to see me use first, you can vote on that, or you can leave a comment below if you want to see me use one of these teams first. I'm leaning towards Kyurem-Black. I'm really excited to try out that team and just give it a try on the ladder and see how strong it can be. But like I said, leave a comment below if you guys want to see me try something else. But like I said, go ahead and subscribe, turn on those post notifications, because we're growing the channel. And next year, 2025 is going to be our year. We're going to blow up the channel, and I'm going to have, even better content. The content's going to continue to grow. I'm going to hire some editors just to, get some more editing things done for my videos and just make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more engaging, right? So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned, subscribe to help us grow. But that's going to be it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned. More videos soon. Deuces.